You know, I don't see, you can't necessarily call it sexist for men to say what they like and what they want to call beauty to me. What does it say here? Women, self-hating alternatives. I had a few because I got notes all throughout this book. Oh yeah, so on page 49, she brings up the thing saying that most likely women are gonna make 73 cents to every man's $1. You know, that's false, and a lot of people don't know that. What that is it's like a, or excuse me, 49, yeah, page 49. That's really just a, so page here, it says, they do not even know that on average, most women still do not get equal pay for equal work, that we are more likely to make 73 cents for every dollar a male makes. Saying that women aren't behind as far as pay, because they are, but you have to be careful when you see people saying they're making 70 something percent. What they're doing is they're taking every single dollar regardless of the job. But if you go with the same job, the same exact job, apples for apples, it's like in the 90s compared to each dollar. It's like 90 something, 94 cent, 93 cent to each dollar. And I'm not saying that doesn't need to be closed, but just don't, that's a misleading point. And then what does it say here? That's a misleading point. And then it says, not really. Oh yeah, page 59. And I want to talk about this too, because this is something that I run into a lot, because people's idea of racism. So I want to read this here. She says, I'm going to start here. She says, while individual white women have incorporated an analysis of race into much feminist scholarship, these insights have not had as much impact on the day-to-day relations between white women, women of color, and women of color. Anti-racist interactions between women are in a society that remains racially segregated. Despite diverse works, a vast majority of folks still socialize with people of their own group. So she's calling that racist, and I just don't think, because this brings up something else that I've seen. There's a lot of trivial, really minor kind of things, and I think when we reduce racism, because you could call that racism, and then you got racism where that's leading to people being shot in the back 8 times and people going to jail for no reason, and there's no empathy, or people not getting resources, not getting jobs. Like, who cares about who you socialize with? Like, to have that kind of view on racism and be fighting to change that, I just think that's trivial, and I don't want to have that in the conversation when we're dealing with racism. What my relatives say, she said, I love that you write in your books and make notes. I felt I was the only one. Who is the book written by? Oh yeah, this. And yeah, I definitely do. I was writing notes. I wanted to go down the list. I was like, I'm gonna go down the list of things I pointed out in this book. But I'm like, shoot, if I do that, I'll be sitting here forever. But if anybody, just let me know if y'all want me to really go in depth. I'll do some, but I won't do it on Facebook. Just break them down into some different videos and probably edit them. But there was a couple things. Oh yeah, check this out. So check this out. This is what she said. Talking about patriarchy. So she says here, nowadays the problem of domestic violence, because it's ending violence, the chapter. Domestic violence is talked about in so many social circles. No, that's not it. So many social circles, from mass media to grade schools, it is often forgotten that contemporary feminist movements was the force that dramatically uncovered and exposed the reality of domestic violence. I'll accept that as true, but that's not what I came. What I came for was this. So she defines patriarchal violence as something rare that she does, but she's going to define something. She says, patriarchal violence in the home is based on the belief that it is acceptable for a more powerful individual to control others through various forms of coercive force. Okay, and then she says the expanded definition of domestic violence includes male violence against women, same-sex violence, and adult violence against children. The term patriarchal violence. See what she just did there. So she said patriarchal violence can happen in a same-sex relationship. So we all know that a patriarchy is basically defining a society where the man is basically running the household, making the decisions, making the rules. So if that's based on a man, and she's bringing up patriarchy, then she gives us a definition of patriarchal violence that could happen in a situation where you have two women in the home. And she goes on to write about how a woman could be doing patriarchal violence against another woman because it's based on the belief that the more powerful person can harm the other person. But you can have a female and male relationship where the woman is the more powerful person. And in our community, this happens a lot because you got a lot of sisters that may date a man that may be homeless, or may not have enough, or, you said because people choose their gender now. I think I think that may be newer than this book. I don't know when this came out. I don't think that's her angle. Yeah, this is from 2000. I don't think that was popping yet. I don't think that talking point was out. Nah, Layla, real talk, man. Real talk. Straight up, man. A lot of I don't want to go off on a tangent. I'm inspired that you read it. Yeah, I told y'all that. I told y'all I was going to read it. What did I say, Layla? I said I'm going to read the book because I love black women and I love the community, even though I didn't want to. I have other books. I have a ton of other books that I just bought that I want to read. But I want to read this book to gain a better understanding. But back to what I was saying. So you can have situations where a woman is in a more of a position than the man that she's with. So technically she can do patriarchal violence against a person. Now that calls into question to me, why are we calling it patriarchal violence if it could be done? It doesn't require the context of patriarchy to happen. See, what you're doing is you're blaming, you're putting something on men even if they don't do it. Because later in the book she goes on and she talks about how, and she points out, rightly so, that there are a lot of women who are abusive to children. And she talks about how that's a patriarchal idea of using or abusing your power or using force to use your authority over your children, which I don't really understand because you have to use your authority at some point. But the point I'm making right now is that you're putting things on patriarchy, which inherently it has to be on men if patriarchal, the definition of that is men, basically men running things, even though it's not men doing it. So I just thought that was interesting. Let me see. Well, maybe I could find some other good things that I seen in here. Oh, page 21. Because this was one of the good things that I seen. Because I don't want to go with only the stuff I disagree with. That I really agree with her on. I think we need to keep this going here. Said feminist movement created a revolution when it demanded respect for women's academic work, recognition of work past and present, and an end to gender bias in curriculum and pedagogy. I think that's a big one because there's a lot of writings by women and really influential women's work that if were it not for a focus on that, to make sure people are paying attention to that and not only looking at work by males in academia, we need to be able to allow those things to kind of push through. Because I think a big example for me, like if any of you guys have seen Hidden Colors, you listen to the person who created that, Tariq Nasheed, he always talks about our ancestor Frances Cress Welsing. And she had the ISIS papers where she's putting her theory out about racism, and it's a really big book. But had we not paid attention to allowing women to push through and taking their literature serious, it may not have made the impact that it was supposed to make. So I think that's a really big thing that we should pay attention to. Now there's another one in here, something big that I didn't want to miss. It said native tech force. Oh yeah, and like I said, I kind of talked about that. I don't think I found this on page 27, talking about how technology of birth control is liberating women. Let me see. Oh, let's look at this on page real quick. So it says here, the women in the late 60s and early 70s who clamored for abortions had seen the tragedies of illegal abortions, the misery of, and we're here where I'm underlining, forced marriages as a consequence for unwanted pregnancies. Many of us were the unplanned children of talented, creative women whose lives have been changed. Unplanned, unwanted pregnancies. We witnessed the bitterness, the rage, the disappointment with their life. So we can't turn to technology to fix all these things. Because what I'm noticing with a lot of these ideas, you're turning to technology to fix problems like that. Who are you at war with? Are you at war with patriarchy, or are you at war with nature? Where you have to go against technology to do this. Because if we look in the animal kingdom, you'll notice there's a lot of different ways that males mate with women. But the women always make sure that they choose the strongest men. They always make sure they choose the strongest men, and you have to choose. That's the burden of being a woman and being in control of the eggs and being the vanguard for the reproduction of the community. So we can't fight against that natural responsibility that you have to choose who is coming inside of you by relying on technology and birth control and abortions and all these different things. That's leading to a lot of the issues I personally believe that we have. I don't think we put enough stress on our women protecting their womb and making sure that whoever they're allowing into their room, make sure you make a good decision about that. You know, I mean, I even challenge myself to it. But as far as like, if I'm dealing with a woman, what if we were to have a child? You know, if I have a problem with that, how much should I really be sleeping with this woman? You know, but for me, it isn't necessarily as important as the woman who is the one you're in charge of. You're the gatekeeper for who comes in, who's going to be bred in our community. You're the gatekeeper for whose seed is going to get passed on. So I just don't like that focus. And I know I brought this up already, but I'm going to bring it up again. I just don't like that focus of, it's like you're going against the natural process. A lot of the time you're against nature. And like I said, I got a million notes in it. One more thing before I end this. And like I said, if y'all want me to really go into all this shit, and I can break more of this down, I'm not going to do it live. I'll probably just record them when I get my computer and edit it. So just let me know if y'all want me to. But there's another one here, spiritual feminism. And this is, I didn't highlight a lot. I'll just basically just summarize it. But she's talking about the patriarchal spiritual systems. So basically things like where you have religions where it's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, that kind of stuff. And there's no female imagery. You know, she hearkened to things like spiritual systems like Vodun and different ones. Like I said, it's in there. I don't want to go through all the pages, but like I said, I can go in more detail. But she hearkened to other spiritual systems where there is female representation. So there's not just gods, but there's goddesses to help the women have an opportunity to look at the divine feminine also. And I think that was a really important part of this, because you can't have something where you only have male representation and that's your spiritual system. That makes no sense to me, to devalue women to that extent. So I think it was important that she put that in there. That was another thing that I agree with, that I think was positive. So there were some positive things in here, but like I said, one of the main positive things I think was the fact that she noted on many occasions that white women chose racism before they chose feminism. And if you understand that and you have years and years of seeing that, why are you still building with white women? But yeah, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the book, unless I just go like note for note, and I may do that later if a couple people say something on all the different things I highlighted and everything I said. You know, I think that's really it, man. I don't know if nobody else got nothing. Layla, true to your word. Yep. Well, all right, y'all. That's it. Peace.